Module 6 continues with Part C, collecting metrics using SNMP. Normally, after configuring SNMP to retrieve a full set of metrics, in this case using SNMP v3 and allowing access to the entire SNMP agent MIB, one expects the resource graphs to provide a rich listing of metrics. That was not the case in this scenario. SNMP metric data is kept in RRD files. OpenNMS keeps log files in the opt OpenNMS logs directory. SNMP metric collection log information is kept in the collectd.log file. Examining the /opt/OpenNMS/logs/collectd.log file, a recurring error was discovered. This is a sample line. This error indicates that an RRD file could not be created. The name of the file is irrelevant in this case. The reason is because RRA list is null. Google that as OpenNMS because RRA list is null. The Google search led to the OpenNMS issue page with a very similar problem because RRA list is null. Scroll down a bit. The solution was provided. A correction had to be made in a file, collectd-configuration.xml. This line needs to look like this line. The file is /opt/openNMS/etc/collectd-configuration.xml. This is the error line. Make a backup of collectd-configuration.xml and edit the line to look like this. All that is being done is to set the value of SNMP collection to default. Restart OpenNMS. This is not shown to save time. After making the change to collectd-configuration.xml, restarting OpenNMS, and waiting a while, clicking on Resource Graphs produces a list more in line with a good collection of metrics. Select Node Level Performance Data under SNMP Node Data, and then click on Graph Selection. There will be a number of graphs on this page, including current TCP connections, number of processes, system uptime, and so on. Scroll down and then back up. Stop on current TCP connections and let the cursor hover over the end of the graph. The x-axis is the date time, May 10th, 1255, and the y-axis is the value 65. Return to the terminal and type the command netstat-anp, pipe that through grep TCP, pipe that through grep established, and pipe that through word count to get a counter of TCP connections. The answer is 71. Note that the previous answers were 65. The graph is, at most, a collection period behind. Returning to the Resource Graphs page, how does OpenNMS know to collect node data, disk I/O, and storage, real and virtual metrics? The answer begins with the sys object ID of the network element. In the case of the Rocky Linux server, the sys object ID is .1.3.6.1.4.1.8072.3.2.10. 8072 is the IANA assigned number to net-SNMP. Below that, 3 is assigned to net SNMP enumerations, 2 is assigned to net SNMP agent OIDs, and 10 is assigned to Linux. SNMP collection metrics are controlled by XML files in the opt OpenNMS etc data collection directory and the file data collection-config.xml. The data collection XML files group object IDs, then groups those groups into system defs, wherein each system def is assigned to a network element based on the network element's system object ID or a wildcard that matches the network element's system object ID. At the top of each data collection XML file, there is a group name which references all the system defs in that file. Data collection-config.xml references those group names for inclusion in metric collection. To demonstrate, change to the /op/OpenNMS/etc/data collection directory. There is no exact match for .1, .3, .6, .1, .4, .1, .8072, .3.2, Edit mib2.xml. The data collection group name is mib2. Move to the bottom of the file and examine the system def name Enterprise. The sysoid mask matches the Linux sysobject ID. Find mib2-tcp. The group contains 10 object IDs, and among those included is tcp cur estab, which happens to be the metric looked at in the earlier graph presentation. More on that in a minute. The mib object is .1, .3, .6, .1, .2, .1, .6.9. Perform an SNMP walk using v3 against this object. The result is 67. Perform the netstat operation as previously done. The result is 65. Quickly perform the SNMP walk again and verify that the number is 65. Return to viewing the mib2.xml file. Clean things up. Return to the top of the file and verify the data collection group name of mib2. Change directories up one level to /op/OpenNMS/etc. Edit data collection-config.xml. The data collection group mib2 is included in this file. And this is how an object such as tcp cur estab is included in OpenNMS SNMP collections. To recap the collection of the metric tcp cur estab, tcp cur estab is one of 10 objects in the mib2-tcp group. mib2-tcp is one of 3 groups in the enterprise system definition, which collects all the object metrics in the groups it contains where the agent sysobject ID matches the sysoid mask of .1, .3, .6, .1, .4, .1. Enterprise is contained in the mib2 data group. The mib2 data group is set to collect by being included in the data collection-config.xml file. To determine the mib object associated with an OpenNMS graph, follow these steps. Using the current TCP connections graph as an example, return to the terminal and move to the /op/OpenNMS/etc/snmp-graph.properties.d directory. Search all files for the string current TCP connection. Use the grep command shown. Edit the results file name mib2-graph.properties. In this case, the graph properties are near the top of the file. Under the name current TCP connections is the column field with a value of TCP cur estab. And that is how the mib object was determined for this graph. SNMP is a mechanism that can be used to check the status of objects within network elements. A network element can be a Linux server, and an object within that element could be a network interface card. Objects, or more specifically access to information about those objects, is defined in a MIB file. MIB files can provide general information, such as a MIB2 file, or a network element specific information, such as a Juniper router. The object information is made available through, at least in the logical sense, an SNMP agent. OpenNMS can use SNMP to monitor network elements. The list of objects and their attributes that OpenNMS knows about is kept in the opt-OpenNMS etc data collection directory in XML files. There are 3 SNMP versions, 1, 2C, and 3. Version 3 provides authentication, integrity, and encryption. The others do not. Use SNMP version 3. Coming up, Module 7, SNMP traps.